The date is September 3rd, 1260. In a valley called Ain Jalut, two armies face each other. One has never lost a battle, the other knows they're about to die. For 60 years, the Mongol war machine has crushed every enemy in its path. They've wiped entire cities off the map, killed millions, built pyramids from human skulls. From China to Eastern Europe, no army has ever stopped them. Ever. But today, something different is about to happen. Something that will change the course of world history forever. The Mongols are led by a general named Bukhara. He's a Christian warrior who spent his life serving the great Khan. His army has just conquered Damascus, Aleppo, and most of the Middle East. They're fresh off victories that seemed impossible. Nothing can stop them now. Facing them are the Mamluks of Egypt. These aren't ordinary soldiers. They're slave warriors. Men stolen from their families as children and trained to kill. Their leader is a man called Qutuz. Just 3 years ago, he was nobody, a random officer in Cairo. Now he's the Sultan of Egypt, and he's about to make the most important decision of his life. The Mongols have sent him a letter. It's simple and terrifying. Surrender now, or we'll do to Cairo what we did to Baghdad. What they did to Baghdad was erase it from existence. 1 million people died in a single week. The rivers ran red with blood for days. But Qutuz does something no one expects. He kills the Mongol messengers. All of them. Then he nails their heads to the gates of Cairo. This means war. Total war. And the Mongols have never lost one. The Mongol Empire in 1260 is the largest empire in human history. It stretches from Korea to Poland. 13 million square miles. 1/5 of all the land on Earth. And it's still growing. Their secret isn't just brutality, it's speed. Mongol horses can travel 50 miles a day. Their riders can shoot arrows while galloping at full speed. They can hit a target the size of a coin from 100 yards away, while moving. But there's something else that makes them unbeatable. Fear. When Mongol armies approach a city, they offer a choice: surrender immediately and live as slaves, or resist and watch everyone you love die horribly. Most cities surrender. In 1258, the Mongols took Baghdad. It was the greatest city in the Islamic world, home to the House of Wisdom, where scholars preserved the knowledge of ancient Greece and Rome, where algebra was invented, where the first hospitals were built. The Mongols destroyed it all. They threw books into the river until the water turned black with ink. They killed so many people that witnesses said you could walk from one end of the city to the other without touching the ground, just stepping on bodies. This is what waits for Cairo if Qutuz loses. But the Mamluks aren't ordinary enemies. They have a secret weapon that even the Mongols fear. Every Mamluk warrior was once a slave boy, usually from Turkey or Central Asia. They were bought in markets like cattle, separated from their families forever, trained from childhood to serve one purpose: war. They learned to fight with swords, spears, bows, and maces. They studied tactics, languages, and the Quran. Most importantly, they learned loyalty, not to family or tribe, but to each other and to Islam. By the time they earned their freedom, they were no longer the boys who had been stolen. They were living weapons, and they were brothers. Baybars is one of these brothers. He's Qutuz's greatest general, and he has a plan that might save Egypt. It's dangerous. It's never been tried before. And if it fails, the Islamic world ends forever. The Mongols are coming south through Palestine with about 20,000 men. They're confident because they've never lost. They're moving fast because that's how they always fight. Strike before the enemy can prepare. But Baybars has been watching them, learning their patterns, and he's noticed something important. The Mongols always do the same thing. They send a small force ahead to scout, then they attack with their main army. It works every time because their enemies panic and make mistakes. This time will be different. This time, the Mamluks will use the Mongol strategy against them. Qutuz agrees to the plan, but he makes one change that will determine everything. Instead of staying safely in Cairo, he decides to lead the army himself. His advisors think he's insane. Sultans don't fight in battles. They give orders from far away and let generals take the risks. But Qutuz knows something they don't. His men need to see him fight. They need to know he's willing to die with them. Because what they're about to attempt has never worked before. September 3rd, 1260. The Valley of Ain Jalut. It's early morning, and the desert is still cold. The Mongol scouts arrive first, just as Baybars predicted. About 1,000 horsemen, riding hard and fast. They see a small group of Mamluk cavalry waiting for them. Maybe 500 men. Easy targets. The Mongols attack immediately. Their arrows darken the sky. Their horses thunder across the sand. The Mamluks seem to panic. They turn and run. This is exactly what the Mongols expect. Every enemy runs at first. Then the main Mongol army arrives and finishes the job. It's happened 1,000 times before. But something's wrong. The Mamluks aren't running in terror. They're retreating slowly, in perfect formation. They're firing arrows as they go, hitting Mongol horses and riders. And they're leading the Mongols deeper into the valley. Kitbuka arrives with the main Mongol force, just as his scouts disappear around a bend. He can hear fighting ahead, but he can't see it. The valley walls are too high. The path is too narrow. He should be suspicious. He should send more scouts. He should wait. But he's a Mongol general, and Mongol generals don't wait. They attack. It's worked for 60 years. Why would today be different? The Mongol army pours into the valley like water through a funnel. 20,000 of the world's best warriors, eager for another easy victory. They can smell victory ahead. They can almost taste the gold they'll take from Cairo. That's when they hear the horns. The sound comes from everywhere at once, from the hills on both sides of the valley, from behind them, from ahead. It's not one horn, it's hundreds. And then they see them. Mamluk warriors rising up from hidden positions like demons from the sand. Thousands of them, maybe 30,000, all around them. For the first time in 60 years, a Mongol army is trapped. But the Mongols are still Mongols. They don't panic. They don't surrender. They form up and prepare to fight their way out. They've been outnumbered before. They've been surprised before. They've never lost before. Kitbuka orders his men to break out toward the south. It's the shortest path to open ground. If they can reach the desert, they can use their speed and archery to turn the battle around. The Mongols charge. Their arrows find their marks. Their horses crash into the Mamluk lines. For a moment it looks like they might succeed. But then Qutuz does something that changes everything. He takes off his helmet. He throws it on the ground. And he screams at the top of his lungs, "O Islam!" Every Mamluk warrior hears him. They see their sultan, their leader, fighting like a common soldier, bleeding like they're bleeding, risking everything like they're risking everything. The effect is electric. The Mamluks surge forward with a fury the Mongols have never seen. These aren't terrified farmers or soft city dwellers. These are professional killers who've trained their entire lives for this moment. The battle becomes a slaughter. But for the first time in decades, it's not the Mongols doing the slaughtering. Kitbuka fights like a lion. His sword cuts down a dozen Mamluk warriors before he's finally overwhelmed. With his last breath, he shouts defiance at his enemies. He dies as he lived, without fear. When the sun sets on September 3rd, 1260, almost the entire Mongol army is dead. A few hundred escape to tell the tale. The rest become carrion for desert vultures. But the real victory isn't just military. It's psychological. For 60 years, the Mongols seemed unstoppable. Chosen by heaven. Blessed by the gods. Today that myth dies in the sand of Palestine. News of the victory spreads like wildfire. From Cairo to Baghdad to Damascus, People who had lived in terror for decades suddenly dare to hope again. The Mongols can be beaten. The tide of conquest can be turned. In Mongolia, far to the east, the great Khan Monkey receives the news months later. For the first time since the empire began, a Mongol army has been completely destroyed. The western expansion stops immediately. Resources that would have been used to conquer Africa and Europe are redirected to other frontiers. The Mamluks use this breathing room wisely. Over the next few years, they recapture every city the Mongols took in Palestine and Syria. Baybars becomes the new sultan after Qutuz is assassinated by his own officers. It's a reminder that medieval politics were always deadly, even among allies. But Baybars continues the campaign against the Mongols and the Crusader states. By 1300, the Mongol Empire is fragmenting. The unified war machine that once threatened to conquer the world breaks apart into competing kingdoms. They fight each other instead of expanding westward. The Mamluks rule Egypt and Syria for another 250 years. They become patrons of art, science, and architecture. Cairo grows into one of the richest cities in the world. The knowledge preserved in Islamic libraries helps fuel the European Renaissance centuries later. None of this would have happened if Qutuz had chosen differently on that morning in September. If he had stayed in Cairo, if he had listened to the advisors who told him to negotiate, if he had been a normal ruler instead of a warrior. Ain Jalut saved more than Egypt. It saved the idea that any empire, no matter how powerful, can be stopped by people willing to fight for their homes and beliefs. The Mongols never forgot the lesson either. In later centuries, when they faced other enemies who used similar tactics, they were more cautious. The age of easy conquest was over. Today, the battlefield of Ain Jalut is a quiet valley in the West Bank. There are no monuments to mark what happened there. No tourist signs explaining its importance. Most visitors don't know they're standing where the course of world history changed. But on September 3rd, 1260, right where they're standing, a group of former slave boys proved that even the mightiest empire in human history could bleed. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change the world.